welcome back to Buckle Up. My name is Rob Wilson and this is the new Toyota Urban Cruiser, and today I'm going to find out if it's any good. Okay, but before we drive it, let's have a quick look around the outside, and we'll start here, as usual, at the front, where you can see Toyota's family face with the hammerhead eye design. We've got some aero-y bits down here, and this fan that won't shut up while we're parked here at the side of the road. And then down the side, here you'll see the 19-inch wheels on this XL model. The Icon entry-level car gets 18s. We've got some black mirror caps, some big chunky bits of plastic down here at the bottom. We've got a black roof, a sunroof as well, and on the other side you would see the charging port on the front wing, which is where my first problem with this car begins, because there are two different battery options in the UK, the small, a large one. You can charge them at either 51 or 67 kilowatts, which means that you can only fast charge in 45 minutes from 10 to 80%, which is not fast, in my opinion. If you want to charge it on a 7 kilowatt charger at your house, it will do that in about 9.5 hours overnight. So you really, I think, need a home charger to make this car work in your life. You don't want to be going to a motorway services and sitting there for ages. Anyway, at the back, here we've got a light bar that doesn't actually go the full width across the car. We've got the car's name, Urban Cruiser. This is the all-wheel drive car, which we won't get in the UK, so don't worry about that. Rear wiper, which is nice for our UK roads. And then if I open up the boot, you'll find a quite small 244 litres of space. Now you can increase that by sliding the rear seats forwards by 160 millimetres, and then you'll get 310 litres. And if you fold the seats down, you get 566 litres, but really that is on the small side. It's smaller, in fact, than a Ford Fiesta's boot was. And if I lift up the boot floor, there really isn't that much in the way of storage under there either. There's enough for some tyre goop, and that's your lot really. This car's got the JBL speakers, so we've got a subwoofer in the back, we've got a light, but I can't see any sort of 12-volt socket or anything like that. There's a hook, and that's your lot. There's no tie-down points even around the boot space, so I wouldn't really say that this was a particularly practical car. Anyway, let's go see if the back seats are better. Okay, so in the back, and I'll start off with the amount of space that I have here, because this driver's seat is currently set up in my driving position. For reference, I'm 6'2", or 188 centimeters tall, and as you can see, I do actually have enough knee room, but my headroom is very squashed indeed, even though we do have a cutout in here. So headroom, 6 footers in the back, it's probably not going to be the best in the world. Now, I did mention obviously that these seats can slide forwards and backwards. If I do slide them all the way forwards, there is no room at all for your legs. So if you do need that extra boot space, just be prepared that you are not going to be able to have rear passengers in the car. Middle seat is quite narrow and a bit raised, and doesn't really seem like there's going to be enough room in the back here for 3 adults. But if you've got kids in the back, there's Isofix on both of the outer seats. You've got a seat back pocket, you've got a couple of chargers, USB-Cs down here. Door pockets are a big enough size for a bottle of water. One good point with those slidey seats is that these are split, so if you had a child seat in here, you could slide it all the way forward with the child in and have the additional boot space, but not really for adults in the back at all. Anyway, let's get up front and see what's going on there. Okay, so up here, and I'll start with what I've got going on in front of me. We've got a 2-spoke steering wheel. On the left-hand side, I've got controls for mainly the infotainment screens and changing the music and all of that sort of stuff, and what's displayed in my 10.25-inch driver's cluster. On the right-hand side, I've got more of the controls for the cruise control, which is standard. The adaptive cruise control is standard on this car. Then in the center, I have a 10.1-inch screen, which is really slow to operate. Luckily though, there are some toggle switches below that screen for changing the fan speed and temperature and various things like that. But if you want to put your heated seat or your heated steering wheel on, you do need to go into those menus, which is a bit of a pain, because if you connect your phone up via Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you have to come out of that, which seems to take literally forever, and then go into the climate menus to do that. So that is a little bit of a disappointment. Below the toggle switches, we've got a Qi charger, we've got 2 cup holders, and then we've got this sort of plinth that comes through the center of the car where we've got things like one pedal driving, we've got hill descent, we've got drive modes, so we can go into some off-roady things if we want to. We've got a trail mode, we've been doing a bit of light off-roading today, and then you've got the drive selector, which is familiar to people who've driven Toyota products before. And then in terms of practicality, well, under that plinth we've got a 12 volt socket and a couple of chargers and somewhere to store various smaller items as well. We've got a cubby under the armrest here. We've got door pockets, which are actually fairly decent size. We've got a glove box, which is full width here. Not sure if the right-hand drive cars will have the same size of glove box. And as I said, I've got the sunroof above me. Now, one thing to note about that is when I was sat in the passenger seat earlier, my head was basically in the roof, and that doesn't lower like this front driver's seat because this one's electric and that one's manual. So something to bear in mind there. Right, anyway, that's enough talking about the inside. Let's go and drive it. Okay, so driving the urban cruiser, and I'll start by talking about the stats. So I've swapped into one of the front wheel drive cars. As I mentioned, we're not getting the all-wheel drive in the UK, so it's pretty pointless talking about that car and its specs. So we have a choice of 2 batteries in the UK. We've got a 49 or 61 kilowatt hour battery, and that means we can either have 142 PS, 172 PS, both go 93 miles an hour. 0 to 60s is either 9.6 seconds or 8.7 seconds. Torque is the same in both models as well at 193 Newton meters. The range is obviously different between the 2 batteries. So on the WLTP cycle, it's rated at 213 miles in the smaller battery or 264 miles in the larger battery. So to get those sort of ranges, this car in its official tests did 4.16 miles per kilowatt hour. I've been pottering around Florence and doing not quite that. We've been doing 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour, so it's not as efficient as the tests would suggest, but which electric car is. So that's the stats over with. Now I can talk more about the actual driving experience, and the first thing that you notice when you drive this car is the ride quality is not the greatest in the world. It likes to bump about and it's not very soft, but also isn't hard enough when you're going around corners to not roll about. It's a bit weird. The ride quality, I think I would describe as unfinished in a nice way. It being an electric crossover, obviously the driving dynamics are not going to be the best in the world, but the steering is quite numb and does weight up in a weird sort of way when you have more than half a turn of lock on if you're on, say, Tuscan country roads, which we have been earlier today. So don't be expecting anything particularly exciting to drive. We've only got 2 driving modes, so we've got Eco or Sport. Eco, as I've said, isn't particularly efficient, and Sport isn't particularly sporty. But I think this car has mainly been designed to be used around cities, because that's where it feels most at home, apart from if you're bouncing up and down over the horrible potholes. You do have 3 levels of regen as well, so if you like that or don't like it, you can switch it on or off, and that should help with the efficiency around town if you have it on. So for those who haven't been able to tell already by just looking at the exterior and interior of this car, this is heavily based on the Suzuki e-Vitara. So a lot of what I'm saying is true for that car because they're exactly the same. It doesn't feel very Toyota-y, and obviously that's the reason for it. So in here, this is straight out of an e-Vitara. Outside is basically an e-Vitara, and to drive it feels like the e-Vitara. So it does sort of feel like Toyota and this is true of, I think, a lot of their electric range. When the car first comes out, it just doesn't feel like they've tried that hard to make it as good as their hybrid setup. Anyway, that's probably enough driving, so I will head back now and do a conclusion. Okay then, so thoughts on the urban cruiser. Well, it's nice that Toyota have finally entered this segment with an electric option. There are a couple of problems with it though, as I've talked throughout the video. I think charging speed's not great, the ride not great, but it's here, and if you want something in this size class that has to be electric and you like your Toyotas, have a look at one of these, go check it out. But thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, comment down below and let me know your thoughts on the urban cruiser. But most importantly, please do subscribe and ding the notification bell so you never miss one of our uploads. And if you want to support what we do, you can head on down to the description where we've got links to our social media pages, our merchandise, or you can become a channel member right here on YouTube. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.